Have you ever looked at a man and thought, I swear he feels something, but why won't he just show it? Maybe he lingers in conversations a little too long, remembers the smallest details you've mentioned, or looks at you in that way, quickly, quietly, when he thinks you're not paying attention. And yet, he says nothing. No confession, no clarity, just this strange mixture of closeness and distance that leaves you wondering what's really going on behind his calm exterior. What if I told you that men often reveal deep love not with big romantic gestures, but with one subtle behavior they don't even realize they're showing? A behavior so consistent, so involuntary, that once you learn to spot it, you'll never miss it again. This isn't about cliches or generic advice. This is about understanding the emotional pattern men fall into when their feelings become stronger than they're ready to admit. In today's video, you're going to discover the exact hidden love clue that gives him away. If he's secretly more in love with you than he lets on, this is the moment he can't hide. Watch closely, because once you notice this sign, everything about his behavior will suddenly make sense. A lot of women assume that if a man truly feels something, he'll naturally express it. But for many men, the moment emotions become real, strong, or vulnerable, something inside them pulls back, not because the feelings aren't there, but because they're actually too intense. Men are often taught from a young age that emotional expression equals weakness, and even when they grow older and mature, that old conditioning doesn't just disappear. Instead, it shows up when they care the most. Ironically, the deeper his affection, the more carefully he guards it. When a man hides his feelings, it's usually because he fears losing control. Love makes him feel exposed, and the idea of being rejected by the one person he genuinely wants hits harder than most people realize. So he'll mask it, he'll act casual, he'll downplay his interest. Not because he doesn't feel enough, but because he feels too much. He doesn't want to come off too strong, scare you away, or look like he's trying too hard. There's also the element of timing. Men often want their life, stability, goals, or confidence to line up before they reveal anything serious. If he thinks you're out of his league or he's unsure where he stands, he'll hold his emotions close until he feels safe enough to open up. And then there's fear. Fear of misreading your signals, fear of ruining the dynamic you share, fear of showing you his heart only to watch you walk away. So instead, he expresses affection indirectly through consistency, subtle gestures, attention, and protective instincts. These quiet expressions often reveal far more than any dramatic confession. The truth isn't that he doesn't care, it's that caring this much feels risky. That's why the hidden love clue matters, because it slips out when he's too in love to stay guarded. There's one subtle sign that almost every man shows when he's quietly falling for someone, and it's not what most people expect. It's not excessive compliments, not clinginess, and not dramatic gestures. The real giveaway is this. He pays attention to the small things about you that most people overlook, and he adjusts his behavior because of them without announcing it. This isn't just noticing what you like or remembering your favorite drink. It's the way he changes tiny parts of his routine, his tone, or his actions in response to you. It's an unconscious shift, one he often doesn't even realize he's making. When a man is deeply into you, he becomes more attuned to your emotional patterns. He notices when your mood changes even slightly, when your energy is off, when you're quieter than usual. And instead of questioning it directly, he subtly adapts. He softens his voice, gives you space, or becomes more present, depending on what he senses you need. This level of empathy isn't casual. It's a sign of emotional investment most men reveal only when their feelings are strong. Another subtle behavior is that he mirrors you, not in an obvious or exaggerated way, but in small, almost invisible gestures. He matches your pace when walking, sits in a similar posture, or mirrors your expressions. These are instinctive signs of connection and comfort, not deliberate imitation. Your presence naturally affects his rhythm. But the clearest subtle sign is how he treats the moments that matter to you. If you mention something important happening in your day, even in passing, he brings it up later. Not because he's trying to impress you, but because it genuinely stayed with him. When a man is deeply into you, your inner world becomes part of his mental landscape. He doesn't announce any of this. He doesn't say, I remembered because I care. Instead, it shows in these small, consistent, unspoken acts of emotional alignment. That's the clue, when his instinctive reactions start revolving around you more than he realizes. Mixed signals from a man can feel confusing, frustrating, and emotionally exhausting, especially when one moment he seems fully invested and the next he pulls back like nothing ever happened. But in most cases, mixed signals aren't a sign that he doesn't care. They're a sign that he's caught between what he feels and what he's prepared to handle. When a man's emotions run ahead of his comfort level, he'll instinctively shift between closeness and distance, not because he wants to play games, but because he's trying to regulate feelings that feel bigger than he expected. When he leans in, giving you attention, sharing deeper parts of himself, or showing vulnerability, that's the real him. Those moments reflect his genuine feelings. But when he suddenly becomes quiet, distracted, or inconsistent afterward, that's him processing the fact that he let himself get too close too quickly. The pullback is not a rejection, it's a recalibration. He's trying to regain emotional balance without losing the connection. A man giving mixed signals is often trying to figure out how much of his heart he can safely reveal. He may want you intensely, yet fear that wanting you too much gives you the power to hurt him. This internal tug-of-war creates behaviors that seem contradictory. He texts you first but replies slowly later. He opens up emotionally but becomes guarded. The next day he invests in one moment and withdraws in the next. To you, it feels inconsistent. To him, it feels protective. Another reason his signals appear mixed is timing. He might not feel ready for the depth of the connection he senses with you. Maybe he didn't expect to care this much, or maybe he's still working through past baggage. So he alternates between approaching you and stepping back, not to confuse you, but to buy himself time to understand his own feelings. Mixed signals usually aren't about a lack of interest, they're about a man who cares more deeply than he knows how to manage. The closeness is real, the distance is fear, and the combination is his way of trying to keep both under control. Emotional vulnerability is one of the most misunderstood aspects of how men love, because it rarely looks the way people expect. Many assume vulnerability appears as open conversations or heartfelt confessions, but for men it often emerges in quieter, more hesitant ways. When a man begins to care deeply, he doesn't always step forward. Sometimes he pauses, reevaluates, and approaches with a caution that can easily be misread as disinterest. But in reality, that hesitation is often a sign that you matter to him more than he's ready to admit. For a man, being vulnerable means allowing someone to see the parts of himself he doesn't show the world, his insecurities, his fears, the pressures he carries, and the imperfections he hides behind confidence or humor. When he starts letting you close enough to notice these things, even unintentionally, it's a sign that his guard is coming down. It might show up when he asks for your opinion on something he normally keeps private, or when he quietly admits a weakness he rarely speaks about. These are small but powerful moments that reveal he's letting you into the emotional rooms he usually keeps locked. Vulnerability also shows through the risks he takes with you. When he opens up about his past, shares something that hurt him, or lets you see him in a moment when he's not at his strongest, he's not just talking, he's trusting. He's allowing himself to be seen without the armor he uses in the rest of his life. That openness isn't accidental. It's a sign of comfort, connection, and growing emotional attachment. And sometimes vulnerability appears in his fear. The fear of losing you, the fear of not being enough, the fear of being hurt again. These fears aren't signs of weakness, they're signs of depth. A man who feels nothing has nothing to fear. A man who feels deeply becomes protective, thoughtful, and sometimes overly cautious because your presence has become meaningful. Emotional vulnerability is the point where his heart begins to speak louder than his defenses. And when you see that shift, it's one of the clearest signs his feelings for you are real. When a man becomes silent, especially at moments when you were expecting closeness or clarity, it's easy to assume the worst. Maybe you think he's losing interest, or something shifted between you, or he's withdrawing because he doesn't care. But in many cases, his silence has very little to do with a lack of feelings, and much more to do with how he processes them. Men often retreat into silence, not because their emotions disappear, but because they become too strong to express comfortably. Silence is a man's internal workspace. It's where he sorts out feelings he doesn't yet have the language for. Unlike women who often talk to process, many men process first, then talk. So when he feels overwhelmed, uncertain, or deeply affected by something you said or something he felt, he may instinctively turn inward. It's not avoidance, it's stabilization. He's trying to regain emotional footing before he risks saying something vulnerable or revealing something he's not fully ready to expose. This silence also shows up when he's afraid of misstepping. If he senses the relationship shifting into deeper territory, or he realizes his feelings are intensifying faster than he expected, he may get quiet to figure out what those emotions mean for him. The more you matter, the more carefully he thinks. That pause isn't emptiness, it's caution. It's him trying to navigate the emotional weight you carry in his life. His silence can also be tied to fear. Fear of not knowing where he stands with you. Fear of being judged. Fear of wanting more than you're ready for. When a man falls harder than he planned, silence becomes a way to protect himself from giving too much too soon. He's trying to calculate if you feel the same, if the connection is real, or if he's at risk of getting hurt. His quiet moments are often filled with questions he's too afraid to ask out loud, and sometimes his silence means he's overwhelmed in a good way. He's surprised by how strongly he cares. He's stunned by the intensity of the connection. He's trying to slow down feelings that are moving faster than his logic can keep up with. Silence becomes his way of catching up with his own heart. A man's silence is rarely a void. It's a dialogue happening inside him, an understanding that can change how you interpret every quiet moment he shares with you. Spotting genuine affection in a man isn't always about catching big romantic gestures. Often, it shows up in the moments you'd almost overlook. And as you listen to this, think about the man on your mind. Notice which of these behaviors quietly show up, because these are the clues most women miss, and you might realize he's been showing you more than you thought. Genuine affection often reveals itself through consistency that doesn't need attention. He checks in, not to impress you, but because he genuinely wants to know how your day is going. He remembers things you said in passing, tiny details you barely emphasized, because your words stay with him longer than he expects. And here's the subtle part, he responds to your needs without being asked. If you're stressed, he becomes calmer. If you're excited, he matches your energy. These shifts aren't rehearsed, they're instinctive. A man who feels real affection will also give you emotional space without disconnecting. He doesn't pressure you to open up, yet he stays close enough that you feel safe doing so. And pay attention to this. When something matters to you, your goals, your fears, your comfort, he adjusts. Not dramatically, not loudly, but in small meaningful ways that show he's listening with intention, not obligation. If he changes his habits or makes small sacrifices without turning them into a performance, that's affection speaking louder than words. Another sign is how he reacts during moments of tension. A man who truly cares won't let ego win. He might take a moment to gather himself, but he returns to the conversation because losing emotional connection with you feels heavier than admitting he was wrong or misunderstood. His desire to repair, not avoid, reveals his attachment. And here's a powerful indicator. He includes you in his future without making it a grand declaration. He uses we instead of I without noticing. He talks about plans, seasons, places, or dreams as if you're naturally part of them. That unconscious inclusion is one of the strongest love clues men show. As you're listening right now, you might be recognizing certain behaviors. If your heart is saying, wait, he does that, keep watching, because these subtle signals, when added together, show that his affection may run far deeper than he's letting on. To understand how the hidden love clue shows up in real life, it helps to look at everyday moments, simple interactions that reveal far more than a dramatic confession ever could. These examples might even remind you of situations you've already experienced, where his feelings showed through before he ever said a word. Imagine you're having a stressful day, and you mention it in a short text. You don't ask for anything, you don't complain, you just share it casually. Instead of giving a generic sorry or ignoring the comment, he subtly shifts his tone. He becomes more patient, asks what happened, or brings up something light-hearted to ease your tension. He may even check back later without prompting. That's the clue. His emotional atmosphere adjusts to yours. Or picture a moment when you mention something small you need, or a tiny inconvenience you're dealing with. Maybe you said your phone charger was broken, or you were craving a certain snack but didn't have time to get it. The next time you see him, he brings it without fanfare. He doesn't make it a big gesture. He just shows up with it, quietly proving he listens. That's affection in action. Another real-life scenario. You're out with friends or around other people, and you don't notice him watching you, but he is, not in a controlling way, but in this soft, protective awareness. He notices if someone speaks over you, if you suddenly look uncomfortable, or if you're left out of a conversation. He doesn't always step in, but his eyes return to you. That unconscious attentiveness is one of the clearest examples of the love clue. There's also the way he reacts when you're hurt, emotionally or physically. If you're upset, he becomes quieter, more focused, almost as if he's scanning for what he can do to make you feel stable again. Sometimes he doesn't even say the right words, but you can feel the shift in his presence. His care becomes more concentrated, and perhaps the strongest example is when he unintentionally mirrors your emotions. If you're excited, he lights up even if his day wasn't great. If you're disappointed, his energy softens. His emotional state syncs with yours, because he's invested more than he's willing to admit out loud. These real-life moments are never loud, but they're unmistakably real. They reveal the kind of affection that slips through when he's not guarding his heart. When you start noticing the subtle signs that he feels more for you than he's expressing, your response becomes incredibly important. Not because you have to do anything dramatic, but because the way you respond can either make him feel safer opening up or push him further behind his emotional walls. Understanding how to react gently and confidently can help the connection deepen without pressure, confusion, or mixed signals. The first and most powerful response is simply to match his energy without overwhelming him. If he's opening up slowly, meet him there. You don't need to demand clarity or force him to articulate emotions he's not yet ready to name. Instead, respond with warmth and presence. Show that you notice his effort, his consistency, his attentiveness, his vulnerability, without putting him under a spotlight. This creates emotional safety, which is what men need most when feelings start intensifying. Another important response is to acknowledge his small gestures. You don't need to exaggerate your gratitude, but a simple, "that meant a lot to me," can go a long way. Men often fear that their subtle actions go unnoticed, and when you validate them, it encourages him to keep showing up for you in those quiet, meaningful ways. When he gets quiet or pulls back briefly, because that will happen at times, respond with steadiness, not anxiety. A man who cares deeply often retreats for a moment to process, not because he's losing interest. Giving him space while keeping the emotional door open sends a powerful message. You're secure enough not to panic and supportive enough not to disappear. That balance helps him relax into the connection instead of fearing it. It also helps to share small pieces of your own vulnerability. You don't need a grand confession. Just let him see that you value the connection too. This reassures him that he isn't risking his emotions alone. Your openness invites his openness. Finally, respond with patience. Real affection builds in quiet, steady layers, and when you show understanding rather than urgency, he feels free to step closer at his own pace. And often that's exactly what leads him to open up fully, because he realizes you're not just someone he cares about, but someone he can trust with his heart. By now you've seen how subtle behaviors, quiet attentiveness, and emotional patterns reveal the truth. He may be more in love with you than he lets on. The key insight is that love doesn't always arrive with grand declarations or dramatic gestures. Often it's quiet, consistent, and woven into the little things he does and the way he adjusts to your presence. Understanding this gives you clarity. Not assumptions, not guesswork, but the ability to recognize genuine affection when it's right in front of you. The next step is to approach the connection with awareness and confidence. Notice the patterns rather than isolated incidents. One thoughtful action doesn't define love, but repeated, consistent behavior over time shows depth. Pay attention to how he responds emotionally, how he mirrors your moods, and how he adjusts to your needs without being asked. These are the signs that his care is authentic and enduring. At the same time, manage your expectations. Recognize that everyone expresses affection differently, and his way of showing love may be quieter than yours. Don't rush the process or demand verbal confirmations if he's more comfortable expressing it through actions. Instead, focus on encouraging the behaviors that matter, acknowledge his attentiveness, appreciate his consistency, and give space when needed. This not only strengthens the bond, but allows him to gradually reveal the full depth of his feelings. Finally, act intentionally. Respond with patience, validation, and calm confidence. Protect your own emotional space while allowing him the freedom to open up. Observe, reflect, and interact in a way that deepens trust rather than creating pressure. The result is a connection built on understanding, mutual care, and emotional alignment, a foundation that's far more powerful than any dramatic confession could provide. By recognizing these hidden signs, responding thoughtfully, and allowing love to grow naturally, you position yourself to experience a relationship where feelings are real, subtle yet undeniable, and lasting. The love clue isn't about catching him off guard, it's about noticing, understanding, and nurturing the bond you both share. As we wrap up, remember this: the signs of genuine love are often quiet, subtle, and easy to miss if you're only looking for dramatic gestures. What matters most is paying attention to the patterns, the small acts of care, and the way he adjusts to your presence without needing recognition. These are the clues that reveal his heart far more honestly than words ever could. If you've been watching closely, you might even start noticing these behaviors in your own relationship, and understanding them can change the way you connect, communicate, and build trust. Now, here's what I want you to do. Take a moment to reflect on the person you care about. Think about the subtle actions, the little shifts, and the moments when he's shown he's paying attention to your needs without you asking. Recognize them, appreciate them, and notice how they make you feel, because your awareness is a powerful part of strengthening any connection. If this video helped you see the hidden love clues more clearly, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who might benefit from this insight. And if you want more guidance on spotting emotional patterns, understanding men's behavior, and building deeper, healthier relationships, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Your engagement not only supports the channel, but it also ensures you get access to the tips and insights that help you navigate love with clarity and confidence. Finally, remember, relationships grow when both people feel seen, understood, and safe. By noticing these hidden signals and responding thoughtfully, you're taking a huge step toward building a connection that is authentic, lasting, and deeply meaningful. Keep watching, stay observant, and trust the process, because love often speaks quietly, and it's those quiet moments that reveal the most.